Thank you very much to everybody, and I think Terry Macalister and Triphyllis will moderate this panel, and they will introduce these owners, some very young, some a little bit less young, and I'm sure that a conference like, excuse me, sorry. A conference like this, the future is now, I think we have in some way the present and the future of the industry. Yesterday we had the chairman of the various associations. Perhaps among these so-called young shipowners we can have some of the future chairmen, who knows. And I think they will tell us a lot of interesting things. So Terry and Yanis, please go ahead, and this is our second and last day. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Francesco, and welcome everybody, and welcome to my panel here. We're delighted to have you here and to discuss the future is now, and perhaps if that is relevant to anybody and everybody, it's most relevant to a younger generation. Yesterday we heard from Mr. Camporini from the Italian Institute of International Affairs, and his general thrust, if I could paraphrase, would be to say the only thing certain is uncertainty, and expect the unexpected. And I sometimes wonder whether that's something to do with getting to a certain age, like myself, like Mr. Camporini and others perhaps, that we become perhaps less flexible, perhaps more averse to change, and whether the younger generation, which I'm going to ask you about because we've got your benefit here, is more able to deal with that and sees change as less threatening. Having said that, I've been reading a book which I really do recommend to everyone, which is by a New York Times journalist called Thomas Sell Friedman. It's got this rather curious title of "Thank You for Being Late," and that actually refers to the fact that he was kept waiting by somebody, and while he was waiting for this visitor, he started thinking about how change is moving so quickly in the world, particularly through digitalization, that humans actually find it difficult to keep up. So it's a fascinating book. He's researched it a lot, and it's really saying that we as human beings actually are struggling chemically to keep up with the pace of change, particularly through digitalization. So that suggests that it's not just a matter of our age, it's actually something that is happening. Let me introduce the panel members here. We've got two Gavarones who are cousins. All these panel members are from family firms in Italy. Giacomo Gavarone is the president of the Italian Young Shipowners Association. He's a law graduate who's now in charge of the commercial department at Finage Armamento Genovese. This company is largely involved in offshore work, and Giacomo has already spent 2 years working in Brazil, overseeing work for Petrobras, the state oil company, which is interesting. His cousin Filippo is on the board of directors running the Crystal Pool, which is a ship management business that mainly oversees bulkers, and he's mainly working around the commercial and the S&P side of that business. He's got a degree from the European Business School in London. Andrea Garolla di Bard is an economics graduate. He's from Naples. He's working in the chartering department of Med Offshore. He's also a board member of Sada Bunkers and was formerly president of the Young Italian Shipowners Association. And finally, we have a woman, which is very, very nice for us because we're short on the ground, women in the industry, and that's maybe an issue we could talk about, why that's so slow in happening. But Andrea is an Maria Laura Dell'Abate from Amaretti Group. She's the vice president of the Young Italian Shipowners Association. She's currently studying for an MBA in finance and says she's passionate about the marine environment, which is nice to hear from someone in the shipping community. So I'll ask a preliminary question, and then I'll be helped by Yannis here, who's going to help me moderate, and he's going to ask some other questions too.
Very optimistic of you.
So, can I go back to that? It's maybe an unfair question to ask you, Maria Laura, but how difficult is it being a woman in shipping, and particularly a young woman in shipping? And are there sort of systemic issues, or is it just this is a traditional industry, and so it'll take time for the gender equality to establish itself?
On my opinion, I think that I have a biased view about this topic because I'm from a company, Amaretti Armatori, that is not really in line with the industry, because the 100% of the board is woman composed, but it's something that is a rare thing in Italy and in our industry. And actually, if we look at the number, there is only a 12–13% of the board of directors in the industry that is with at least one woman. So the equality in the gender in the industry is far away, I think. And since we are more or less all from family business, it's even more strange, because it's like women facing difficulties in rising and in shining, even in their own family. Because the 96% of the companies in the shipping industry in Italy are family-owned. So you are in your own family, and you still are having problems in arriving in your board of directors. And it's something that is, I don't have all the answers why it's happening, but still I can say that with my company, with my experience, knocking wood, we're doing well. So, yeah, okay, sorry. And so the point is not being woman better than man or man better than woman. It's just we're doing different things in different ways, but we are both good. So what I can ask to the audience, to the senior generation that is listening, I would like to ask to all the people present in the room to believe in their daughters in the same way they believe in their son, because the opportunity are there, and we can do both well.
Thank you very much indeed. I think the reality is that it's always deemed to be kind of an issue for women, gender equality, and the reality is that men have a huge responsibility, and perhaps more of a responsibility because they're better represented already. So tell me what you guys are doing to promote women inside your businesses.
First of all, let me just say one thing, because I want to thank Francesco, because Francesco always gives a lot of space to the youngs. We don't have to take for granted to have this space in such a venue, because I mean we are very happy. I represent the Young Shipowners, and I'm extremely happy to have the space to say what we think. Then I would like really to thank him and to thank all the comers. I'm not Valeria Novella, just this is for information. Then, you know, I think that in in our company, for instance, I have to say that we are far away from being totally, open to women. This happened, I think that this reason has its roots in our history, because in our history, in a lot of family company, for instance, there is a transmission of share that maybe sometimes involve just the male part of the family. In a lot of families, normally we have the real estate, that is the house, that goes to the women, and the share, that means works, that goes to the men. Then now also, if we are obviously more prone to open up our company to women, I think that for us it's not a problem, because for me a man or a woman, it's exactly the same. So I don't really have this problem, because for me it would be natural to judge a person based on his resume, on his skills. But I think that we start from a weak point, because, for instance, in a lot of companies, not in mine, but in a lot of companies, that already all the female part, it doesn't have shares, but the male part have shares. So this makes very difficult for a woman to enter in the company. This is obviously a thing that now belongs to the history, I would say, but it's a problem that a lot of Italian company has.
Okay, well, thank you. That sounded very honest and interesting to me. Yes.
If I can add just a small point, I think we see also more and more women on the ships on board, and I think that's it could be a good starting point then to give them possibility then to further continue their careers in the office. We, for example, we had on some chemical ships that we used to own some female captains from the North Europe, and so maybe the industry is not, or in the past was not too keen to have women into the industry, but I think this is coming more and more, also not only in the offices, but also on board the ships. And you see that more and more, so I think that will change possibly, and you will see not only into the board of directors, but also in the offices and working, we will be seeing more and more women.
Andrea, do you have a view on this?
I personally believe that the ladies are very, very also performing into the shipping industry, also in the offices. I am a ship owner, but I have also a small brokering company, so half of the people I speak to are ladies and are very, very smart, and I found very, very prepared, especially on the chartering side. Many of them lead entire companies, so I believe that basically it's the same. With the great pleasure also, I see the University of Engineering, Naval Architecture, which is full of ladies now, and they are very, very prepared also when they go on board for inspections. So it's very frequent to meet ladies during some inspections on board. So I think it's basically becoming very, very frequently that you see ladies also leading important companies.
Okay, thank you very much. Was there some suggestion that Valeria was going to join us, or?
Well, I think she paid attention to your book title.
Okay.
She was a bit late.
Right.
But
Yanis, do you want to say a word?
Terry, I did want, apart to ask the question, of course, also to say that I have the luck to spend some time with Mariella Bottiglieri, who is a member of the Neapolitan community, and obviously a lady. And she's on the board of the UK Defence Club along with me. And I have to say that everyone on the board, thinks that Mariella's contributions are very much to the point. And she displays a lot of, both professional understanding on the chartering side, but also a lot of the maturity that comes from coming from a family business. And, I want, to say that this is a typical example. We don't have too many women on the board there. There's also the daughter of Panos Laskaridis. But I think it's important to be extrovert. And, I recommend to you also to try to be involved in outside of Italy and to follow this very good example. because that's how you gain the respect, you know, not to do it in secret. Anyway, I wanted to ask you how difficult it is to change the way things are working. You know, we heard yesterday from Mr. Liras about the proprietary model of shipping, where the owner and the manager is together, and this is a modus operandi that becomes a modus vivendi, and it's even more difficult to change a modus vivendi than a modus operandi. So what ingredient or what aspect would any of you like to highlight as a good way to introduce new thought and new priorities in a family business? We don't need to change everything at once, one step at a time. So maybe we can hear from the young shipowners first.
You know, I think that's more or less like the issue that we have between women and men. I think that first of all we have to start to think that there is no distinction. There is not a women issue or a men issue. There is no a young issue or a older issue. I think that we are all human beings, and I think that we have a different mentality. Obviously, a younger is more led by his enthusiasm, by his optimism. Maybe he's also a little bit naive, but at the end, it's a very important component of a company. I think that being young is first of all a status of mind. I know, I mean, the president of our company, that is Giovanni Madelpiana, is a man of 81 years old, but he's a lot younger from a lot of other people that I know in our company that is maybe 14. Then, for instance, we in Confitarma, we are fully involved with the senior, and I think that there is a great exchange of ideas, obviously in the full respect of the experience, because the experience is a very important part of our job, but we cover a lot of position next to the older, and this is also fundamental to make a kind of path in order to be, you know, old ship owners. Then I think that being younger or being older is more really a status of mind, so it doesn't depend. We in the young Italian ship owner, I am 37. We have people of 22. Then we have already a kind of gap between myself and the youngest, and obviously that they try to put the youngest in some project that are more suited for their mind. But at the end, I think that we are part of the same game. We are playing in the same league, and we are all the same target. So I think that first of all, to face this problem of being too young, being too old, is start to forget about this distinction and try to judge every single person, like the women and the men. There is women that are very good in doing shipping. There is men that are very good in doing shipping, and all the way around.
So ideas don't have a sex and they don't have an age. They're an idea, they're a mind. But can I ask something specific? Because we are in danger of being too positive and too pacifist about the way that we view things. I want to ask you from your personal experience, what happened to you in your life when you got involved for the first time in this business? From each one of you, one experience of something that you felt was too backward-looking, or something that you really wanted to change, or something that you couldn't understand why it was that way. So,
I will talk about something which is a little bit different in this sense, because we were talking before about the young people that are basically in the front line of the shipping companies because of sometimes of their attitude towards the technologies, because they speak foreign languages, whatever. But what I'm feeling, it's my experience I'm living now, is that independently if you are young or if you are old, we are assisting to something that has never been seen before in this world. So daily we face what is going to happen together, the young generation and the old generation, because there is really nothing in the past that could recall what's happening today, and nobody can predict what's happening. We are living in a turbulence and in a world which changes so fast that not even the young can understand actually rapidly what is going to happen. Think about, for example, the new regulations that will come into force and are coming into force on the ships. The life, for example, we will speak also later maybe about ballast water, about the bunker, the fuel. Think about the fuel, for example. All the world should comply with 0 or 0.5% of sulfur cap for the fuel. Nobody is prepared because simply there is a lack of the main information. How much does it cost? Will cost the fuel with 0.5 sulfur? You know, and so if you don't know that, it's even difficult to know whether to apply for a scrubber strategy or to use a fuel. And this is something that can change your company forever, especially if you are a small company. It seems to me like when there is a black cloud over the Grand Prix in Formula One, and you have to decide whether to put the tire for the rain or not. And this can change your strategy for the specific run. A wrong choice in, for example, in the bunker strategy can bring to a disaster, you know, for the whole company that goes ahead for generations. Think about the competitors in this field in the sector of shipping. Nobody 20 years ago thought a competitor could be a bank, could be a pure investor, a KJ owned by a Norwegian dentist or something like that. So it's something which is new for my father, but it's something which is new for me as well. So what we are doing, in my personal experience, is a purely, you know, strong and tight confrontation daily about what is the right choice to take. And what we fear a lot in this world is that, you know, it's a different plan between where to take decision between a family company and, let's say, investors owned company and whatever, because we risk our capital, we risk our history, we risk our tradition. On the other side, we see managers of you know, investors that pushes to buy vessels over vessels. So we feel to stay stuck, you know, not buying anything, not growing like the others, but it's the only way we should do to resist, you know, to do just little step by step and try to minimize the risk. But once again, you know, I cannot say that the young can be the key for the future of the shipping, as well as the experience of the old. The mix-up of the two things can bring to something which makes sense.
So, Andrea, in a way, what you're saying is there's not so much a difference within a company between the generations, but there is between companies, depending if it is the old model or the new model. There is a bigger distinction there.
Sometimes affect this market, but basically I can say that from my experience that neither the young nor the old can really perfectly understand what is happening today.
And from the rest of the panel, has there been something in your first steps in the shipping industry that really stuck to your mind as being too conservative or not appropriate for today's world, or something that you would like in particular to change?
As Terry said at the beginning, I pursued an MBA full-time, 1 year full-time in Lewis, and I attended a lot of lessons about innovation, disruptive technologies, and flat organization. And then you face reality. When you came back to your office, you have a shipping company that is not really flexible, and there are hierarchies, and you cannot ignore it. And so the challenge, I think, in this industry is to mix up tradition and innovation without exaggerating, not in one side and not in the other. And from a younger point of view can be maybe more difficult because you're maybe more proactive for innovations and you want to introduce new things. But I think that in this industry, not everything is possible, because even investments are long-term, capital intense, and so things has to change, but the industry is not able to change as fast as others. So
an example of an innovation that you felt was difficult to implement, or that you would have liked?
For example, also in the IT, for example, you can do amazing things in an office, and then you have to face difficulties on a ship, because it's not that easy to change an IT system on a ship that maybe is not a new building and maybe also an investment. You have to think, okay, I'm doing this investment on a ship that maybe has got 5 years of life left, so you have to be wise.
There are certain structural elements in shipping that perhaps do not allow a uniform evolution on the technology side. And in the chartering business?
Well, yes, I was connected to what Andrea was mentioning before. I think that, I mean, these big changes which we're facing, loss of a cap, for example, I fully agree with Andrea that it's a combination of things. I mean, it's both the younger and the older generation who have to tackle it and understand it with the experience of the older generation. But I think those problems have to be, we from the younger generation, we have to cope with them. It's us who need to understand them and try to bring the right solution. Loss of a cap, as we said, it's already basically done. I mean, everybody has done his decision probably, scrubber, no scrubbers, and we said yesterday that it's only a temporary solution. We should be looking already at the next changes, next innovations, which will lead us, and for sure it will be us here taking then that decision, because our parents will probably not. I mean, they would expect at least that it will be coming from us. So I think we have to for example, use Confitarma to gather together to get the information, understand what could be the possible solutions, talk with IMO and other association to understand how we can, because again, as we said before, family business, we own the ships, we operate the ships, then we take the full responsibility of what we are doing and the decision we're making, and of course they can be very expensive. Andrea was making the distinction between investors, companies, and family business. And again, it's a lot of money. These things are expensive, so we have to make sure that we make the right decisions when we take them. Today we don't have the full answers, so it's tough on us, it's difficult for us, because we said yesterday that you don't know still if scrubber will be the solution, if you can then, if IFO will be available. If you don't put the scrubbers, you don't know then if you will be finding the right compliant fuel. So I think we have to be enthusiastic about what we do. It's a fascinating industry, we like it, but we have to keep up with it, and I think new ideas and new problem solving should be coming from us for the future.
Yannis, sorry if
Yes,
I may
please.
add some things. Thinking twice to your question, you know what is we have this project, and I know because there is some member of Wärtsilä here, of this hybrid tag. That is a new generation of tag. We are tag owner basically. So the hybrid tag, it's a tag that basically works through normal MGO, but also through battery.
Electricity.
And it was quite funny because the oldest generation of our company that is still involved in the decision making, they were quite against this project. And they are the same generation that basically was in charge when we make the passage from coil to MGO, you know? So, I mean, it was incredible how you can forget some lesson, how you can lose your enthusiasm. Maybe the battery was not a good choice, I have no idea. Maybe in the future, and I'm sure, in order also to assure Gianmario that is here because we work with him from Wärtsilä, maybe it will be the next step. But the first reaction was pessimistic, you know, and I think that is the same reaction that the older generation of the old generation that we have today had when they proposed the passage from coal to MGO, you know. So this is something that it's quite strange to me.
If I can add, hello?
Andrea?
If I can add something, you know, to the discussion of before, given the assumption of what is the world today, which is very difficult for the young and for the old, what we as a young can bring into our companies that can, can be seen as an advantage. Is a matter of fact that today the vessels have a very short life, and also they are more expensive, and also there are new changes in regulation coming into force, or already came in force, which makes the vessel even more expensive. And so the nature of the ship owner itself changes. change it. Before, the ship owners was focused mainly on gathering and catching cargoes, and no matter how was the ship you were using to transport that cargo from A to B or catching contracts, I dare say that before the best ship owner actually was the one able to manage old vessel, new vessel, all type of vessels, and was the carrier. Today there is so much attention on the ship. That means that we can focus on less investments, and we have to gather more money to go ahead with our company. So what our generation can bring, and we are trying to do, is to be more open-minded towards investment of third parties into other companies, for example, or to put on a center of our business the management of our company rather than the ownership of a vessel. So maybe one day I see companies led by our generation owning maybe 3 vessels 100%, 2 vessels 50% with others, 30% of another vessel. Put the know-how at the center of the scene of your operation, and this can be an advantage. Also, the most difficult thing which we are trying to do, and gives a lot of help of what we are doing with our group of young ship owners in Confitagma, by going together, visiting other countries, or studying together, by exchanging impression all the time, and let's say walking together through this storm, is maybe to create such sense of trust between ourselves that can lead to partnerships, which I believe they will be fundamental. We need to understand that the competitors are not, the company is not the company of your neighbor, of your friend, but maybe it's, some completely different companies coming from other background or other countries. So we need to gather together, and we need to share our competence, maybe also forming, like kind of aggregation or partnership. My personal experience, for example, was a few years ago to establish a small brokering company, and I work with many of my friends as the vessel was mine. And it's not only to make money on that business, but also to grow together on certain projects. If I cannot put the vessel, I can put my knowledge, I can put on the table, the charter that I know, helping my friend to charter a vessel, hoping that the next time would be the same, at the opposite. We are trying something which probably our fathers they couldn't do, to be happy if some of your competitor also grows, because that means to have more trust from the banks that the segment is growing, independently if it is you or another, and bring positive energy to this field. It's not easy, because we come all from family companies existing for generations. And so, it's very, very difficult to change our mentality. Also for me that I'm speaking about that, it's not easy, but really, really we are putting all our effort to make this happen, very shortly.
Thank you very much. One of the issues that came up yesterday to kind of bookend the whole thing, it seemed to me, was the inability of the industry, the shipping industry generally, to communicate with the outside world. And this had been a serious problem. And with issues like the move that you talked about, Giacomo, to away from an oil-based economy to a sort of cleaner fuels, shipping actually is going through a very, very traumatic period. It's very condensed. We know about the pressures around low sulfur fuels, and the wider story around decarbonization is equally worrying. There's a lack of public sympathy for shipping, I think, and the elder generation has let that slip in many ways. It's just got on with its business. I wonder whether you, this generation, has got an opportunity to do something different and really communicate with the public at large, as well as policymakers, around what a vital role this industry plays and how extraordinarily important it is to world trade. I wonder whether you have any ideas about how that vision can be communicated from now on to help the industry help itself. Can I start with you, Maria Lauro? The boys, again, are falling into a pattern of talking a lot, and it's nice to allow your voice to see through.
Yeah, I think that yes, it's true. The industry, the shipping industry, it's really closed, and people usually don't want to disclose information, and there is a general feeling about the difficulty of doing benchmarking in our industry is increasing, and it's funny because actually technologies and communication skills are increasing, so they are not going in the same way. But I think that we, as a young generation, our networking as an association is helping a lot in breaking the wall about this topic, at least inside our own country, because we are an association of Italy. And this is why we were also working on trying to build a young shipowner association in Europe, because we saw that in our group this kind of also these panels or conferences, our meetings are helping to dislock these barriers in our industry.
Filippo.
I think you're perfectly right. I mean, we saw yesterday. The industry is quite invisible until you get the disaster in the middle of the ocean, and then there's a collision or something else. It only gets to the news when it's bad news normally, and but it's quite difficult to change that. I agree, but I also agree that it has to come from us. I mean, there's no way that our parents or the older generation will try to do something about this. I think everybody on his little, in his company can do a few small things, which are, if you think about it, I think most of, or I wouldn't say most of, but we still see a lot of companies not having a website. And that's something that, for example, the case of myself and Giacomo, we decided a couple of years ago to review a bit our marketing, if you can call it marketing. Of course, this applies a bit better to the harbor tags, which are more visible and to the public rather than maybe bulkers. But we did a bit of efforts in that, reviewing our website, updating it, and to give you a short example, it paid off. I mean, it was more attractive. It was of course bad time for offshore industry, and we got contacted through the website by a filmmaker, producer who needed an anchor handler to shoot a movie. So then the tag was sort of fixed chartered for a couple of months to do a movie on it, and that's only, I think, because it was seen on the website and it was available to the public, because otherwise there's no way that of course they would have picked and they would have seen on the website the picture of the anchor handler. So I think yes, that it's still an industry which is not sort of attractive to the public, is not seen, is not visible. I think slowly everybody can do his own little thing, and then, as Mariella was saying, within Confitarma, within the industry, try to get it a bit more seen, even though it's not easy. I mean, it's still an industry which is not, again, it's a service, and it's not easy to do so.
Thank you very much. Giacomo, do you have a view on this?
I don't have a lot of head because, to be honest, what it has been said, I think that it's more than enough. But I would like to say that communication is the key, especially because the image that the shipowner has is not sometimes it's not a good one. You know, we are the public, the audience thinks that basically we are all rich. We don't pay our tax for the tonnage tax and all this stuff, and they don't look at what we are doing every day. They don't look of all the efforts that every single company is doing, not only in order to maintain its company and all the employees and all the occupation, but also for the environment. I think that what the shipping community is doing now, and now for instance, I would like to mention the Sulfur Cup, to the environment is incredible, and I don't know how many other industry are doing the same, especially in a moment where the shipping is suffering a lot. Basically, IMO, and I think that it's more than fair, is asking to comply with some regulation, with investing a lot of money, scrubbers or not scrubbers, buying MGO instead of IFO, in a moment of the industry that is extremely difficult, because nowadays, maybe except of cruising, there is no shipping segment that is gaining money, because dry, liquid, offshore, basically they are all losing money, and the world community today is asking us to invest money in order to be greener. It's a commitment that I think that all the shipowners are very happy to comply it, but I think that our obligation is to communicate it. When, for instance, there was Lorenzo Matacena speaking about the first LNG carriers. He has to communicate it. He did it, but I think that this is this incredible effort that its company, that is still a family company, is doing, and is doing basically for the community, because nobody pay a higher tariff to take this ferry because it's green powered, you know.
Yes. No, I would like to say something, strange about this information in this new era. What is happening with the globalization, which is something that scares us a lot as a ship owners, is that everyone knows the same thing at the same time, but nobody knows what the others are doing at the same time. And this is, I can make an example. If you have to plan an investment, think always about the family company, very slow into moving. You receive the brokers in your office, and the broker said, go to this vessel. This is a vessel of the future. There are only 30 vessels in the world built so far, and the order book is very low, whatever, and convince you. The process of convincing a traditional ship owner to make an investment, to put all his money into a new, in a project, is very slow. So you speak about this with your partners, with your father, within the company, technically speaking, whatever, it takes time. And when you decided to place finally the order, it's something that makes you very proud. With your family, you maybe have a dinner, or you say, oh wow, we will change the future of our company. We are very modern now. We invested in the ship of our dreams. And the Trade Winds published the day after that Scorpio has bought 50 vessels of this type, and I don't know, other big players, 100 vessels, the investment. And so the niche of your dream is already fulfilled before starting. This is something which is very frustrating for us, because it's one of the big bugs of the globalization. Where also the small owner seems to have in hands the project of the life, but this is because the role of the ship owner changes. When sometimes I speak, for example, with Maria Laura about the grandfather, she always tells me that going at dinner, maybe on Sunday, he found the grandfather, drawing the silhouette of the ship, of his dream, and he was not a naval architect. So this kind of view of the ship owner, unfortunately, is something that we lack a lot. The strategy view of the ship owner. The vessels are all the same for everyone, and so who has more money, and scale economies are prevalent to all other, personal strategy on the business. Maybe some of the niche business are, prevented for this, like the Ro-Ro packs or the offshore in certain niches. We are, for example, involved in offshore and bunkering, which are two niches, so you can still have your own strategy, whether to go with one engine or twin screw or whatever, would be the design or the length of the vessel, because each port has its own, difficulties. But in a traditional Trump vessels like bulk and tankers is a very, very tough. So this I wanted to...
Okay, I think that's an interesting point.
If I might just pick up on what Andrea said, just to confirm that this sort of existential question is echo also in Greece, where there is a lot of, medium-sized company, and it's very hard to define your position when the world has changed so fast. It's very difficult to catch up with people that don't care so much how reckless they are, because somebody else can pick up the damage, or because the damage is instantly recapitalized. And we heard yesterday, it was interesting on yesterday's panel, two very big owners, your own Emmanuel Grimaldi and our Panos Laskaridis, they have banks calling them up, offering money at, we heard 1%, which is incredibly competitive pricing, much better than the public companies. And then we hear all the medium-sized owners, they're basically shut out of the market because they don't have a unified balance sheet, or because they're not able to keep restructuring all the time. So it seems that the competition, it's not very level. And I think it's correct, and maybe the younger generation can come up with slightly different models to compete. Because in ancient Greek dialogue of Protagoras, you need to be faster than whoever is stronger, or stronger than whoever is faster. You cannot be the strongest and the fastest at the same time. So it seems this is a difficult choice to make, and maybe, Terry, you can pick up on some things that might be a good lead, a good tip for people in this strange world we're moving towards.
Yes, no, I'll have to think about that. What I was interested in is you're all part of family shipping groups, so you have a sort of obvious, you'll have heard about it around the dinner table, about shipping. It will have been very much part of your lives. To people outside of that world, up till now, how do you attract those? If this industry is going to be continue to be important, and we heard from Roberto Fico yesterday that the important politicians like himself at least claim to be extremely interested and see shipping and the maritime industries as being very important for Italy. But if that is going to continue, and if that is going to grow, it's absolutely essential that young, very clever people are brought into the industry. And I just wondered what your experience was of people not inside the family, not those with a lot of experience of the maritime world, but those outside. How easy is it going to be? How your dialogue with your friends outside the industry? To what extent do they understand shipping, see it as negative, see it full of rich people and nothing else, or see it bad for the environment, or just badly paid? How do you why not go and work for Goldman Sachs? Why go and work for a shipping company when we all know that the finances are rocky? Any views on how to attract that talent and what your dialogue with your friends is like?
I think it's, we go back to an industry being not visible to the public. Many, to my experience, talking with my friends, they don't know. You don't think about, yes, right, you have a Panamax or an oil tanker bringing oil or grain from one port to the other, and they, even physically, it's tough to imagine a ship, how it is done and so on. So, but I think then once you explain them what is your role in the company, what you do, I think it's a fascinating industry, and they like it, and they understand. I mean, also maybe for us being in a family business, we sort of, I think every one of us sees a bit of the company at 360 degrees. So we see from the crew management to the operations to the commercial to chartering to the S&P. So talking about this to our friends or external guys not in the industry, I think they realize, all right, there is also this type of business which maybe we don't think about, and I think it's quite, if not attractive, I think it's still, they get interest, and they like to try to understand a bit more about what we do. And I wouldn't say in a negative way. I think well, of course, then in Italy, shipping is a big industry, so everybody knows. But I think it's fascinating, and it's attractive, and but still I see many people not exactly imagining what we are doing in the office every day, and not sort of, if you're not telling them what exactly we are doing, they still have this external view, and then they don't realize exactly what is shipping made of at the end.
Yes, I am from Parma, and Parma is a city in the middle of Italy without sea. So my friends doesn't know anything about shipping. And this is something that when you introduce yourself to someone in your city, and you say, yes, I'm from a shipping company, they're always super surprised, more than for a person that is from Naples or Genoa. And, but then, as Filippo was saying, when I start to describe the industry, my company, what we are doing, in the end, I always say, we are transporting fuel. So I say, how is your car working? So even you, that you don't know anything about shipping, and you feel yourself so far away from the industry, even you are using something that maybe was on one of our ships. So it's something that it seems very far away. At the same time, probably these chairs were transported by sea. Yeah. And in the end, when you start speaking about even your passion, then it's very fascinating. And I think that this is a key point that can be used to break down the wall about communication, because people actually are interested in this industry. It's something that is not perceived, but when they start to listen to you, then they are interested, and it's a fascinating industry.
Thank you. Got any views, Andrea? I'm sure you have.
Yes, yes. You said before, you know, and I totally agree that shipping is so important, you know, for the life of a country. I think that 90% of the goods in the world are moved by vessels, and not only, you know, economically speaking, but also for tourism, for the culture. The culture comes from the sea. You know, we live in Napoli, where we had several dominations, and we have all these beauties also because some of them were brought by the sea. And also, you know, it's so important even for a war, for example, you know, to have own fleet. So the government should protect and defend the shipping industry. Then the image of the ship owner outside will change. As I was telling before, like the world is changing also, this image will change. Now, till 20 years ago, it was seen, the ship owner mainly as a character of a book, a nice book, like, you know, the Comandante Lauro, you know, Onassis in Greece, you know, like the rich man going to beautiful parties and whatever. This image is changing and have to change. What we are doing as a young, for example, in our meetings, in our convention that we do within ourselves, we try to have a kind of a meritocracy. So we try to invite more and listen more to the skilled guy within the company, which is not necessarily, you know, the son of the ship owner or the ship owner itself, but is a young guy working in this industry. So we are promoting the shipping among the schools and the universities, organizing masters. Giacomo, for example, will probably talk about this later because he's very, very skilled in promoting the shipping industry between the young generations. He created several projects also with their company, together with Filippo. They invite students on board vessels. They make understand that shipping can be related to a single man or a single ship owner, but it's something which probably will disappear. It's a teamwork. And so it's a work like another work. If we go to Asia, if you go to the Middle East, you always find, you know, very young people, ladies or men working in chartering, for example, department, which are very, let's say, pass me the term, normal. You know, in Italy, until 20 years ago, if you're a chartering man, you dress with the tailored, you know, suit with a cigar or something like that. Yeah. It will completely change. The importance is what you do, not what how you appear, you know, in this business. But Giacomo can speak very widely about this.
No, I mean, I think that communication is very important, and because we are part of the industry, and especially in Italy, we are part of the country. For instance, we, being owner of tags in Genoa, we are part of the city because we serve the harbor of Genoa, and the harbor of Genoa and Genoa is the same things, basically. So we provide a service to the Genoese community. And once I was in the ferry with a friend of mine, with a ferry going to Sardinia. I will not say which ferry, you know. This friend of mine from Milan told me, oh, okay, this is one of your tags. Yes, it is. how is below the waterline? So he didn't know nothing about the ship. I mean, he didn't know nothing about the shape of the hull, the propellers, where they are, or all this stuff. And then we, as the marketing community with Filippo, we start, for instance, an Instagram channel. That can be very stupid things, but at the end we have more than 80,000 followers. That for a Genoese company, shipping is a lot, especially if you compare with other shipping reality bigger than us. And we found that the citizen has a lot of interest in shipping. They want to know more. Then we organize visit on the ship. We try to open up a little bit our company to the public, because especially in the harbor towage business, you are part of the city. In Italy, the harbor towage system is a public service. Being a public service, your users, not the shipping owners, is the community. Then at the end of the day, you have the obligation to let the other understand what you're doing every day, and then which tools you use in order to serve their needs. Then I think that also, as I said before, open up our industry a little bit more to the community, understand that every T-shirt that we wear is coming, the 97% of this T-shirt coming through ships. It's important.
Thank you very much, Giacomo. Can I move on to something else in the closing minutes? Mentoring. I mean, my personal experience in journalism was that I progressed partly because I found people who kind of looked after me, however enthusiastic, determined, and however much one felt an equal of anyone around you. And I agree, Giacomo, it's a lovely truth that actually you are as young or as old as you want to be. And I meet young people who strike me as positively ancient, and I meet people even older than myself who have a youthful vigor and an open mind that is very inspiring and encouraging.
Terry, are you thinking of Francesco here?
I am actually. Francesco is one of those people. Francesco is definitely one of those people who is ageless in terms of his passion and enthusiasm. But I personally, there were people in my professional life who were kind of older figures who kind of showed me the ropes in a way, and I wonder whether that is something you feel is happening. I think particularly with women, it's inevitable because of the position of women being permanently in a minority, that there's that kind of lack of confidence. You look at the board and you see all these men. It can't help. And so you do need people to stand on your side and make you feel totally 100% worthy. And I wondered whether there was already mentoring in your companies, and if there isn't, is that something that's just my view, or do you think there's something in that? Yes, please, Maria Laura again.
I think that it's always difficult to be young. Also, if you are very positive, if you have a lot of passion, always you need to have the backup of some some person belonging to the old generation to back you up. Because at the end, alone, it's impossible. I think that you need always to have a mentor, and I think that it's very difficult to meet this kind of people in the company. I think that you can count them from the with the finger of your hand. But I think that this is the people that you will remember for all your career, especially when you get older and older. I think that this kind of people, I think that you mentioned Francesco. I don't know Francesco so well, but the simple fact that Francesco let us speak for 1 hour, and I think that also between the audience there is a lot of these people, because if these people listen to us for 1 hour, it seems that they care about the younger, because you can have all the enthusiasm that you want. I think that the youngers will change the world, and this will be true also when I will be old, and I hope that I will remember my speech when I will be older. But I think that you always need in your life of 4 or 5 persons that basically guide you in order to help you in this industry that is, we have to be honest, is one of the most difficult industries in the world. And this is the reason why, and I'm trying to reconnect to the fact that I said before, we have to communicate our business and our values, because we are not producing shoes. We are doing shipping, and shipping is a wonderful word. So we have the obligation to communicate. This gives us passion. We are young, we have to communicate this passion, but at the end, as you said before, we need 4 or 5 people. You always need, but not only in your working career, also in your life, you always need 4 or 5 key persons that help you out to be the man that you want to be.
Maria Laura.
Yes, I agree with Giacomo. Even because shipping, when you do shipping has a wide horizon, so you cannot be able to know everything about everything. And so you have to rely on people, and not only people from your family, because I think it's not healthy for the company. Because people that are coming from outside, they are giving you a good new point of view, and it's something that can help communication between companies, because the shipping is a small sector. People are always the same, so you can exchange your point of view even with someone that is not from your company and is joining your company and is bringing with him something that maybe you were not able to see and maybe was already there. So it's a good way to make the know-how going through the industry.
Thank you. Filippo, do you want to say anything?
I think this is, of course, this is a process which needs to be planned. And this, I think, needs to be coming from the top management and the older generations, the mentoring process of introducing, especially in family business, in introducing the younger generation to the business. We said about many things which have to be brought up by us, the younger. I think this process has to come from the higher level, or the older level, let's say. And I think in Italy, maybe we're a bit behind in that process compared to the rest of Europe or rest of the world. I mean, we travel a lot. We see a lot of, at our age, we see a lot of guys from our age having already top-level position in other companies, in their own companies or family businesses. Whilst I think it's a cultural thing, of course. In Italy, maybe we're a bit behind on this. But again, I think this is a process which has to be well planned, because it's a long process. It's not like you went into the family business knowing nothing and you get to whatever position. I think you have to see a bit of everything and slowly start. Mentoring, you have to have a couple of mentors, or 1 or 2, which will educate you or let you understand the business. But again, this has to be well planned in advance, I think.
Andrea, do you want a quick word? Because we're running out of time, actually.
Yes, I perfectly agree with everyone. You know, when they say that you know, we have to rely on our people working with us independently, if they are son or relatives of the ship owner or not, and especially that. But at the end of the day, the firm is made up by persons, by people. So you know, this should be very, very clear understanding to everyone that wants to go and work into the shipping industry. The shipping industry is also very particular because of its dynamic factor. You know, the vessel is going through the ocean, so everything can happen. We can have some unforeseen events. Think about piracy or engine, broken in the middle of the sea. So the life is made up mainly of problems. So you need to interact a lot. But what I wanted to say, linking to something that was said to Terry before about being young, since this is a young session, though I am 40 years old now, but I had the honor of being the president of the Young Shipowners, and thus participating also into the executive committee of the old. So I were close by the best ship owners, Italian ship owners, and that is the chance and the occasion to steal the secrets or try to learn from them. And at the end of my experience, what I've learned from them is that they are very, very young inside. We had the president that was the president of the old when I was president of the young, which is Mr. Grimaldi. I always say, you know, you have hundreds of vessels, but you are still hungry for another and another and another. You know, why don't you, for example, this is what the beginning of my mandate, I say, why don't you, for example, give more time for trips, families, and whatever. And you feel in his eyes, you know, the hunger for going ahead and being better than yourself all the time. And I'm sure that with him or other, you know, the executive committee, if I threw out from my bag football, they wanted to participate to a match and win. So this is, we had an example in our history, you know, of the Italian shipowning industry, of 95 years old ship owners ordering vessel that probably they had never seen, you know, after. So this is something that keeps you very young. This I mean for being young inside and having, you know, being hungry to better than yourself all the time, even at 90 years old and 95 years old. Okay. And this is a secret to live in this industry for a long time. I believe, this is what I learned, yes.
Thank you very much. Did you want
Terry,
to say?
just a closing remark, I think, from a very interesting panel, which seemed to focus more on modernizing the existing process. I suspect that in 5 or 10 years, in a similar panel, we will hear about changing a lot more of the concept. And I'm thinking of yesterday, the refiners talking about them going, not caring so much whether they're refining petroleum or biofuel or hydrogen. I'm thinking about Coca-Cola canning cannabis and selling it for a very conservative company that stands for America. That's a very big shift. So these, I haven't seen these yet happening in our industry. I suspect they will come. It could be a shift to the ports, it could be a shift to the cargo, it could be a redefinition of what we're carrying. Maybe we'll be carrying information in satellites, or maybe it will be, you know, in an even greater future, carrying stuff into space. But there is a lot of room for more fundamental innovation in our industry, except for just rejuvenation. And I hope that you are given the chance from people that are obviously showing you a lot of trust to not be afraid to really move forward and redefine some fairly solid concepts, because that is really the most important way to make a big change. So thank you and good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you very much to the panel.
Bravo.
Thank you very much. Really interesting. Thank you.